Have you ever been called arrogant without doing anything wrong at all? It wasn't ego, it wasn't you trying to dominate the room, and you probably still don't know where that label came from. If this has happened to you more than once, with different people in different situations, there's an actual explanation, and it has nothing to do with your ego. There's a very specific difference between coming across as arrogant and simply having control over your own reactions. Almost nobody stops to explain that difference. And the seventh sign is usually the one that makes people confuse emotional stability with arrogance the most. But to get there, you need to understand the six that come before it. Someone raises their voice at you, throws out a calculated jab meant to get under your skin, and for a split second, everyone's waiting to see how you'll react. But it doesn't come right away. You breathe, wait a few seconds, answer later, in the same even tone you always use. Interestingly, that gap, that breath between the attack and the response, is exactly what psychologist Roy Baumeister describes as the most valuable space in emotional regulation, the moment where real maturity happens, not coldness. But whoever was provoking you doesn't see maturity. They see someone who didn't flinch, and to a lot of people, that reads as contempt. You weren't ignoring them, you just didn't give them the reaction they were fishing for. But not reacting in the moment still isn't the behavior that gets you judged the most. The next one hits people's pride harder, not just their patience. You say no, and that's it. No follow-up paragraph justifying it, no trying to convince anyone your decision was reasonable. It's already yours, and that's enough. Someone in the group circles back, fishing for a reason. You repeat the same line without adding anything, and the silence that follows bothers people more than any explanation ever would. In a culture where every no is expected to come with an acceptable excuse attached, people fill that gap with assumptions. Guess they think they don't owe anyone an explanation. In reality, you just stopped outsourcing your self-worth to other people's approval. And that is the opposite of arrogance. That's autonomy. But there's an even quieter habit than this one that quietly ends friendships without anyone ever figuring out why. Three people talking over each other, each one racing to finish their own story before someone changes the subject. You stay quiet. Not because you ran out of things to say, just because at some point you realized that competition was never worth the energy other people put into it. And that unsettles anyone who measures their own worth by how much attention they get. Your quiet in a room full of competing voices reads as disdain. In reality, it's just detachment from a game that was never yours to begin with. So far, this might just look like shyness, but the next sign is the one that triggers the most envy because it touches something almost everyone does without realizing it: needing to show off what they've earned. Two people get the same promotion on the same day at the same company. One goes straight to social media to announce it, long caption, a list of thank yous, screenshot of the email. The other goes home, has dinner, and barely mentions it to anyone. Only tells people who ask directly, and even then, in one sentence. Interestingly, it's the second person who usually gets labeled arrogant, not because they said or did anything extra, just because they broke a very specific social expectation, that every win needs public validation to actually count. Psychologist Nathaniel Branden, known for his work on self-esteem, argued that genuine self-esteem doesn't depend on an audience. It exists even without one. Anyone who needs outside recognition to feel successful reads that silence as superiority. Guess they don't need anyone else. In reality, that person just stopped needing applause to know they did good work. If you've ever kept a big win to yourself, drop a comment with the situation where that happened to you. This is usually the comment that gets the most replies on this video. But the next sign is the one that makes even your own family think you've changed for the worse. You stop replying to the texts. No blocking, no blow-up, no giant paragraph explaining your reasons. You just notice every conversation leaves you worse off than it started, and one day you simply stop coming back. This almost always gets read as calculated coldness. But cutting someone off quietly isn't the absence of feeling. It's a refusal to turn a personal decision into a spectacle for everyone else to weigh in on. Anyone used to public fights and dramatic paybacks doesn't know what to do with someone who just leaves the room without handing out material for gossip. And once again, silence gets treated as a threat. Now we get to a sign that mostly bothers people who feel insecure, because this one isn't about relationships at all. It's about arguments. Someone disagrees with you in front of other people. It's the exact kind of moment where almost everyone feels the pull to push back, correct them, win. You let it go. Not because you don't have a point, you probably do. It's because at some point, you understood that needing to win every argument is a symptom of insecurity, not intelligence. Daniel Goleman, in his work on emotional intelligence, describes this ability to let go of needing to be right as one of the most reliable markers of real emotional maturity. In a culture that treats debate like a sport, whoever backs off first gets labeled as thinking they're too good to argue. The truth is the opposite. You just stopped spending energy proving points that don't change anything in your life. And the seventh sign is the one that ties all 6 of these together. Not many people get there because it requires giving up the one thing most people spend their whole lives chasing. A party full of people. You're standing in a corner of the room with a drink in your hand, not actively scanning for someone to talk to, not checking your phone to look busy. None of that anxiety about needing to be part of some specific group. You're just there. Fine. An entire weekend with no messages from anyone. You're not checking your phone every 10 minutes waiting for a notification. You're just living your Saturday, your Sunday, and Monday shows up without you having missed a single thing. This is the deepest sign of all, because it's the one that sums up the other 6. Most people measure their own worth by other people's reactions. They need a fast reply, a liked post, a noticed presence. And when they meet someone who doesn't need any of that, their instinct isn't admiration, it's suspicion. Maybe that's the real reason some people never quite understand you. Because anyone who depends on other people's approval reads emotional independence as rejection. To them, someone who's genuinely fine being alone seems to be quietly saying, "I don't need you," even when you never said that, never thought that, and probably like the people around you quite a bit. You just stopped needing them to feel whole, and there's a huge difference between liking someone and needing someone in order to function. That's the difference nobody ever taught you to name, and that difference on its own explains the other 6 signs in this video. So go back to the beginning. When people call you arrogant, it's almost never about you. It's about the discomfort of someone who doesn't know what to do with a person who doesn't need approval to function. You're not arrogant, you just stopped giving people the reaction script they expected from you. Which of these signs gets you called arrogant the most? Drop a real example in the comments. I read every single one, and sometimes tomorrow's video comes straight from something you write down there. If this video finally put words to something you felt but could never quite explain, hit like. It helps this reach more people who need to hear it. And if there's someone in your life who's always been called difficult just for being their own person, send them this video right now. And if you want to keep exploring self-control, emotional mastery, and Robert Greene's ideas on power and human nature, subscribe to the channel. New video every week.